All right, today we are going to start one of the key components of what will be an impact on your teaching, on your students, and hopefully we'll figure out some ways that you can improve this component for your students to be successful. So this week we venture into memory. The majority of today is going to be looking at some basics of memory, the acquisition of memory, how do we get it, and we are going to start with some sensory memory components and what that means and how do we deal with them. So let me first start with what the idea of the acquisition of memory is. Okay, it's ASR. A, acquisition, S, storage, R, retrieval. So with this is the idea of the modal memory system. We're going to put it right here. So what happens is sensory items go into the sensory memory. Now with this could only hang out for about 10 to 15 seconds depending on the person, but that's pretty much it. It's not going to hang out there for a long time. So we need to get it from the sensory into the long-term memory, which can last so much longer. So there's some techniques to do it, but the majority of it is repetition. So taking it from sensory into, or short-term into long-term will typically require some sort of repetitive action, repeating whatever it is that you're trying to remember to store it for a later retrieval. So what is memory? I guess that's a pretty good place to start. It's a process involved in retaining, retrieving, and using information about stimuli, images, events, ideas, and skills after the original has gone and left the building. So how can we take something that is no longer here and still make use of it up here? That is memory. So let me give out a scenario here so I could walk through the different components of memory. So let's say that you, or me, I'll put it in the idea of me. Hold on, I lost it. Okay. So let's say that I want to share with you the memory of when I met the absolute love of my life, right? So we're at the fireworks show. I was there with some friends. Everyone's looking up. It was the 4th of July, and it was just a beautiful night. So then, in this explosion of fireworks, I see their face. Chef's kiss. Beautiful face, right? So right there, we have sensory memory. Okay, it's coming in from the eyes, and it is stored in just a teeny tiny little space to be saved for later. So sensory memory, in this situation it was visual, but it could be hearing, okay? It could also be touch. All of these things are sensory memory. Now, this is very brief. This is very, very brief. Think of a sparkler, right? Let's stick with this 4th of July theme. Sparkler, and you do a little, and you see it stay, right, in your visual span. That is sensory memory. So, let's carry on with the story. It gets super exciting. So luckily I have the presence of mind to go ahead and bump into them later. And I wanted their phone number, as people do. But I had left my cell phone all the way over on the blanket with my friends. So I didn't have anything to write it down with. So what I started doing is repeating the number. 8675309. 8675309. 8675309. Do you guys get that reference? Jenny, 1980 song? Doesn't matter. So now I have repeated it. So it was in my short-term memory, 8675309. Repetition is hopefully going to bring it into my long-term memory. So it worked out. I remembered the number, I called them, and the rest is history. I have countless memories of all the amazing things that we've done, the pumpkin patches we've toured, the apple picking, the great bicycle rides that we took. So what's happening now is we have long-term memory. Okay, all these memories are stored up there. This could be for an extended period of time. We're going to hang on to these memories. So these long-term memories or experiences are like little episodes. They're part of our episodic memory. So we have the being able to watch it back like a little play. That's episodic memory. Now another memory came into play here when I talked about riding the bike. That is procedural memory. What if you play sports, they might call muscle memory, procedural memory. So this is also part of long-term memory. So then we can get into the idea that as much as I can remember all of the great memories that we have, I cannot remember the address of our first apartment. But luckily, I still know the birthday. That's the most important part. All right, so right now we're getting into semantic memory, the idea of specific facts such as addresses or birthdays. So all of these are the different parts of this memory system right here, okay, and how it worked its way through from the fireworks to the phone number, the repetition into the long-term memory that has hopefully the phone number, the episodes that I remember, the idea of being able to hop on a bike and ride it, and all of the facts that are involved, the birth dates, the anniversaries, all of those components. These are all of the different parts of the memory system. Next page. So let's think about you. I want you to take a second and tell me what are some things that you use memories for. Go ahead, yell them out. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. Nice. Is that everything? So I'm going to guess, because I can't actually hear what you're saying, the majority of the things that you mentioned were long-term memories. Things that are stored up there. Things that you remember, whether it is something from class or, birth dates, things like that. I would put so much money on the fact that they are all long-term memories. So short-term, that 10 to 15 seconds that we can hold on to is this. Think about where you are right now. Do you hear anything in the hall? Is there any sort of smell? I have an air freshener, so it smells pretty good. What about how your feet feel right now? In your shoes or without shoes or in your sandals? Yeah? What about your pants? Are they fitting pretty good? Did they just come out of the dryer? All these little components are your short-term memory. Things in the 10 to 15 second now. So there are, when we look at this whole component, there's different ways to store things. There's different ways to retrieve things. And these are going to be the two areas that you as educators are going to manipulate. The storage component and the retrieval component. So to understand how to manipulate it, we first have to understand it. So let's talk again about this modal model. Again, right? So let's say that you want to call for pizza. You don't have your cell phone. Well, you have to have your cell phone. All right, but you can't you don't have your cell phone. Let's say that you have just a regular phone in your office or at home. Let's say it's a long time ago. So you search out a pizza place that you want to go to. Pizza Althea is pretty good. If you haven't been there in Pittston, it's fancy. So you want to find the phone number. So the first step is you are going to focus on that phone number and you're going to try and get it in. So sensory, you're looking for it. Short-term memory, there's the number. What are you going to do? You're going to repeat it over and over and over and over and over, right? Because you can't dial it right now, or you don't want to call now. I don't know why you're storing it. I also don't know why you're not using pen and paper, but that is this example that I'm giving you. So deal with it. Just deal with it. So you are going to repeat, and now we are going from short term and we are taking it into long-term memory. So now it is 6 o'clock. You got a little grumble in your belly and you want to make the phone call. Okay, and you didn't write it down. It's not stored in your phone, and you can't get it again. So you have to access, boop, the long-term memory, the retrieval process, right? You encoded it into the long-term, and now you want to retrieve it to make that phone call. So you're going to pull it from long-term and bring it back in to working memory or sensory memory to make the phone call. So this is how it works. It is not a one-stop directional thing, okay? There's interplay between short-term and long-term memory, working memory and long-term memory. All right, does that make sense? Good. Let's start off with sensory memory then. So this is the retention for a short period of time, and it's typically the effects of some sort of sensory stimuli. So that whole sparkler thing that I talked about it. There is immediate perception, typically selective attention, and dichotic listening is involved here. Remember the dichotic listening, one ear versus the other ear? And it is the very first part of processing into your memory. It is the basic identification of anything before it goes into your brain. It is the gateway. Now, without it, you would 100% struggle to make sense of the environment or process any new information efficiently. The sensory is the entire way that information comes into our brain. So it's super duper important. Without it, we wouldn't be able to watch movies, right? It would just scene, right? You wouldn't even be able to process what you were seeing. So it is super important, and there's two main ways that we could do it. We have audio and we have visual. So we're going to go through a little test here to see which one you perform better at, because for most people, there's a difference. So what I want you to do is get out some paper and get ready. Pull this bad boy up, and we'll start working through it. So we're going to go through a couple different tests. There are 6 tests altogether. Tests 1, 3, and 6 are going to be visual. Tests 2, 4, and 5 are going to be audio. All right? So what's going to happen is in this space here, for this first test, I'm going to pop up the letters. Okay? You are going to take a beat, and when I tell you, you're going to write down all that you can remember. And then we'll go through it again with the different modes. All right, so take a second, have the letters pop up. Numbers pop up. Here we go. And write. Put them all down in the order. I'll wait. Actually, just pause it. Write it, come back. Okay, we're back. So now is the audio. You ready? Here we go. 1, 7, 2, 3, 6, 9, 8, 4, 5. Good. Hit pause. Go write it down in order. Okay. We are going back to visual. So here we go. We're going to be right here. Pause. Go right. Okay, we're back with audio. Here we go. 1, 8, 2, 7, 5, 9, 3, 4, 6. Pause. Go write it down. All right. Last audio. Are we ready? 1, 6, 2, 7, 8, 5, 9, 3, 4. Pause. Go right. And we're back. Okay, are we ready for the last one? Visual. Boom. All right, so what I want you to do now is you're going to hit pause. You're going to write that down. I hope you already did that. Hit pause, and then I want you to go into the ModoLab PowerPoint, okay, on Blackboard, and you could see how you did. Okay, so that's going to have all the answers for you, how we went through, starting on slide, I think, 34. It's probably the easiest. Start on slide 34, and you'll see 1, 2, blah, blah, blah. So once you get that done, I want you to go ahead and click on the link to the ModoLab link. So it should pull up a spreadsheet for you. What I want you to do is, I've demonstrated it on the page that I have, right? So there's serial positions. So that means where was it in the list? Is it the first letter said, the second letter said, or number, whatever it is. So then for trial 1, which is the visual one, you're going to put a 1 if you got it correct, a 0 if you did not, and do the same thing for trials 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The trial 2, 4, and 5 are going to be audio, and 1, 3, and 6 are going to be visual, and you could see the little chart on the bottom that's going to pop up to show you how you did with the comparison. So in order for you to fill out the sheet, you're going to go onto the spreadsheet, and where it says duplicate me, you're going to do the little drop down next to it, and you're going to duplicate and put your name in that and fill it out. So then we'll be able to go back and see how other people did. It's pretty interesting little technique there. So take a second, go fill that out, and then come back here. We'll finish up. Okay, so we're back. So you saw that. I'm curious to see how it all played out for you with the audio versus the visual. The next step in this, we are going to go into the short-term memory. Okay, so this is going to be working short-term memory. This is going to be the 10 to 15 seconds where you're going to sort of store information, but then it's poof if you do not encode it and get it to stay. So you are going to hop onto Blackboard. Oh, I'm sorry, before that, I would like you to go into Blackboard, and there's something called the Partial Lab. It's sensory memory, and it's going to deal with tones and memory. So I would, before you do the next part, go back in there. That is on that other site, the Cog Lab. So use the tmullally at Gmail and CogDev 2023 to access it, and go do that lab. And then I'm going to chat about it really quick when we come back. So pause it. Boom. Lab. Go. All right. So you did the lab. So the first struggle I had was identifying. I wish there should have been a place for them to let you know ahead of time what's a high pitch, mid, and low tone. Because I feel like the first couple are going to be errors because trouble identifying that. So the next idea. How'd you do? Were you so much better at the beginning one? I found the second one very, very difficult. And the only time that I had success was luck, right? So we talk about, remember that spotlight attention that we talked about last week? So the only time that I would be successful is if I happen to guess correctly and be looking at the correct line that matched the tone. Otherwise, it just wasn't sticking. I had a couple times that I was able to, what I thought was guessing, but it turned out I had like 2 of the 3 letters. So it's in there, I just couldn't grab it correctly. But I think that's a pretty interesting lab because A, the difficulty to ask questions afterward, using that spotlight attention versus cueing it ahead of time. So that's something you should definitely think about when you're doing your work. educating, right? To work with the kiddos, understand the difference and the complete difficulty in that second task versus the first. And make sure you take that into consideration when you're teaching. All right, so the last one for today, you are going to go in and jump on the serial position PowerPoint. So I'm going to trust you on this one. So you're going to go through based on how it tells you to work through it. So it will say there's 4 different trials. So the first one will be normal without, just 1 second delay. Doot, 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 doot. The next one will be no delays at all. Just bam, 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 bam. The next one will be, 1 second delay, but then an extended pause afterward. And then the last one will be a digit span test to see how many digits you can hold up in your noggin. All right, so go ahead, hit pause now, pause, and then come on back and check it out. Okay, so after you do that, you made notes of everything. I want you to go into the link that says serial, and same idea as we did with the first lab today. I want you to go ahead and put a 1 if you got that correct, a 2 if you did not. So this is for trial 1, has a tab, trial 2, and trial 3. Okay, so you did that? Awesome, thank you. So something that is interesting that happens with short-term memory is something called the primacy effect or the recency effect. Recency. So primacy effect is going to be that the brain is going to hold on to the first couple items that you are set to remember. So in trial 1, it was X, Z, T, R, blah, blah, blah. So what happens, we repeat, right? So as it's going through, we're repeating. So the first thing was shown, X, XZ, XET, XETR, right? So those have been repeated more than any other item. So those are going to have primacy effects. And then the recency or the regency effect is going to be the things that are more recent. So it's going to be fresher in the brain. Your brain's held on to them. So what you should see in trial 1 would be both the primacy and the recency-regency effect, okay? So ones, and then it should drop, and then come up again is what your chart should look like. Now, when we go back and we look at trial 2 without any pause, meaning you don't get to repeat it, what do you think is going to happen? Did you guess? Do you know? You are not going to have the primacy effect because you didn't get a chance to repeat it, but you'll still have the recency or the regency effect because it's still fresh in your brain. All right, so now what about the long pause after, along with the counting back from 100? What did you see on that one? Exactly. You should have an impact on your regency effect. All right? And the last little bit there, no spreadsheet to fill out for that, is the digit span test. How many digits were you able to store in your brain? The average person can hold 5 to 9. Okay? Something interesting, though, when we talk about the digit span test. So let's say I put this up. Right? And you're going to remember it. Let's go line by line. First line, second, third, right? Good. Got it. So how'd you go through those letters to remember it? Did you do A, T, Y, B, blah, blah, blah? And how many do you think you got to do it that way? All right, now what if I do it like this? Do you think you'd be able to get more of them or less of them? So what you see here is chunking, the chunking effect. So when we put things together, B-I-A-N, they almost just take up one spot for each. So chunking will increase your capacity within short-term memory. So chunking, which will be a monster word for you as you go through education and learning techniques to work with students, chunking is going to be big and a great tool to help them encode the information, to take it from short-term memory into long-term memory. So the last little bit that I want to talk about, because we're already 25 minutes in, I'm sorry, is the idea that short-term memory starts to lose the retention duration as little as 20 seconds. It's already gone. So, something to just play with here. If I were to put up BKG, okay, I want you to remember it, but I want you to count backwards from 347 by threes. Go ahead, start doing it. Pause. You still got it? Okay, keep counting. All right, how about now? So, data shows that after 3 seconds doing that task that you just did, 80% of people can still hang on to that information. But once we go to 18 seconds, only 7% of people can hang on to that information, having an interference task. Pretty crazy, right? So, what does this mean for you as an educator or a student or a human? Great question. Let's say that you are doing a task with your students where they have to remember something. But as you are asking them to remember something, you're having them do something else, or talking, or have other distractions in the classroom. How's that going to impact their storage capabilities? Think about that. Think about it hard. We will talk more about it in the next session. Take care.